What if I told you that the breakfast most older Americans eat every single morning is quietly breaking down the very muscles keeping them out of a nursing home? I've watched this pattern repeat in my practice more times than I can count. Someone comes in, independent, capable, proud of managing their own life, and they describe something that started small. A little more effort rising from the couch, a hand reaching for the railing they never used before, stopping halfway up the stairs without knowing exactly why. And almost every time they say the same thing, I just assumed this was getting older. In most cases, it isn't. It's what's been on their plate for years, and what nobody ever sat down and told them to stop. Today, I'm going to show you 3 foods that are actively working against your leg strength right now, and 3 that can begin to rebuild what's been lost. One of them carries the word diet right on the label. By the time this video ends, you will never look at it the same way again. Before we dive in, if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you hit that button and turn on the bell, so you never miss another health tip made just for you. If you enjoy this video, type 1 in the comments. If not, type 0 to let me know how I can make better content for you. 1. Refined white bread and white rice, the daily muscle thief. Here is something I have never once seen printed on a food label, posted in a clinic waiting room, or included in the discharge paperwork given to patients after a fall. White bread and white rice, 2 foods that have sat at the center of the American table for generations, are doing something to your leg muscles that almost no one ever connects to diet. I want to be precise here, because this is not about carbohydrates being the enemy. This is about chemistry and what happens inside your body when that chemistry goes wrong repeatedly, quietly, over years. When you eat refined white bread or white rice, your blood sugar climbs fast, faster than your body was built to handle at that frequency. Your pancreas fires back with a surge of insulin to bring those levels down. That part sounds routine, but here is what nobody explains in a 15-minute appointment. When that spike and crash cycle happens 3, 4, 5 times a day, morning toast, a dinner roll, a bowl of white rice at lunch, your body reads that pattern as sustained biological stress. And under stress, your body does what it has always done. It releases cortisol. Cortisol at chronically elevated levels is one of the most efficient muscle destroyers your body produces. It breaks down muscle tissue and converts it to glucose for fast fuel. The medical term is muscle catabolism. In a younger body, this is manageable. In a body that is already losing muscle mass naturally, it is gasoline on a slow fire, and the place you feel it first, almost always, is in your legs. The effort it takes to rise from a chair, the grip you reach for on the handrail, the walk that used to take 20 minutes and now takes everything you have. What makes this so hard to catch is that white bread doesn't feel like a threat. It feels like Tuesday. It feels like every breakfast you've eaten for 40 years. The correction is simpler than you'd expect. You don't need to eliminate bread, you need to replace it. Look for sourdough or a loaf where the first ingredient on the label reads whole wheat or whole grain. The words wheat bread mean almost nothing. That's a marketing phrase, not a nutrition standard. For rice, brown rice or quinoa are solid alternatives, and if the switch feels too abrupt, cutting your white rice portion in half and adding a scoop of black beans to the plate changes the metabolic response of that entire meal significantly. 1 swap. Real protection for the muscles that carry you through your life. But the second food on this list, this one I find harder to talk about because it's something most people genuinely believe is good for them. If you're still watching and finding these insights helpful, please comment number 1 below to let me know you're with me. Now let's move on to point number 2. 2. Processed deli meats, the wolf in protein's clothing. The deli counter has always felt like the responsible choice. Turkey slices, lean ham, a little roast beef. Protein without the heaviness of cooking from scratch. For a lot of people, that logic is held up for decades. And if you're someone who builds lunch around a deli meat sandwich 3 or 4 times a week, I need you to hear what I'm about to say carefully, because it runs directly against everything that packaging is designed to make you believe. Processed deli meats are not a reliable source of muscle-building protein. For many people, they are quietly working against it. Here's the biology. A standard 2-ounce serving, the amount most people layer onto a sandwich, contains anywhere from 700 to over 1,000 milligrams of sodium. To put that number in context, the recommended daily ceiling for adults managing blood pressure is 1,500 milligrams. You can hit 2/3 of that limit before you've finished making lunch. That concentration of sodium drives systemic inflammation, not the kind you feel as sharp pain, but the slow, invisible kind that settles into your blood vessels, your connective tissue, and the small capillaries responsible for carrying oxygen and nutrients into your leg muscles. When those pathways are narrowed by chronic vascular inflammation, your muscles don't receive what they need to repair after even ordinary activity. A walk around the block, a trip up the stairs carrying bags from the car. These feel harder not because your muscles are failing independently, but because the system that feeds them has been gradually compromised. The muscles are willing, the supply line has been cut. And then there are the preservatives. Sodium nitrate and sodium nitrite, listed on nearly every package behind that deli counter glass, produce compounds in the body that generate oxidative stress directly inside muscle cells. That means the tissue your legs depend on for stability is absorbing cellular damage from food you selected because it seemed like the smarter protein option. That is the particular cruelty of this one. The swap is straightforward. Canned wild-caught tuna or salmon makes a genuinely better sandwich. Cleaner protein, anti-inflammatory omega-3s, and nothing working against your recovery. Hard-boiled eggs prepped at the beginning of the week are another practical option. Before you buy anything at the deli, read the ingredient list. If you see sodium nitrate or sodium nitrite, set it down and walk away. What's coming next, though, number 3 on this list, is the food that surprises people the most, because it has the word diet right there in the name. 3. Diet soda and artificially sweetened drinks. The invisible bone breaker. That word, diet, has been one of the most effective pieces of marketing language in American food history. 1 syllable, 4 letters, and for roughly 4 decades it has persuaded millions of people that they were making the responsible choice every time they reached for that can. I understand why. The logic seemed airtight. No sugar, fewer calories, same refreshment. What could possibly be wrong with that? Quite a lot, as it turns out. And the damage runs deeper than most people realize. Let's start with phosphoric acid, an ingredient present in most colas, diet or regular. Inside your body, phosphoric acid competes directly with calcium. It pulls calcium away from where your body stores and needs it most, your bones, and redirects it toward neutralizing the acid load building up in your bloodstream. Over months and years of daily consumption, this process measurably reduces bone mineral density. And here's why that matters specifically for your legs. Muscles do not work in isolation. They attach to bones. They pull against bones with every step you take. When those bones thin and weaken beneath the surface, the entire structural system that keeps you upright becomes less reliable, even if your muscles are doing everything else correctly. Strong muscle sitting on a fragile frame is an unstable equation, but the harm does not stop at your bones. The artificial sweeteners used to replace sugar, aspartame, sucralose, saccharin, have been shown repeatedly to disrupt the gut microbiome in significant ways. That disruption is not a minor inconvenience. Your gut is where your body extracts and absorbs the nutrients your muscles depend on to rebuild. Protein, magnesium, B vitamins, essential amino acids. When the microbial environment in your gut is compromised, you can eat well, salmon, eggs, Greek yogurt, and still not absorb what your legs need. The food goes in. The benefit doesn't follow. It's like filling a tank that has a slow leak at the bottom. You keep pouring, the level never rises. This is what makes artificially sweetened drinks uniquely damaging. They weaken the bones your muscles anchor to, and they silently block your body's ability to use the good food you're already eating. Both at once. The fix is simpler than you'd expect. Sparkling water with a squeeze of fresh lemon gives you the carbonation without the phosphoric acid. Water with cucumber and mint is more refreshing than it sounds. Unsweetened herbal tea with a small drizzle of raw honey is a warm alternative that causes none of this. We've spent time on what to take off your plate. Now, everything changes direction. I know that was a lot to sit with. Three foods most people have trusted for years, and now you're seeing them differently. That discomfort is actually a good sign. It means something real just shifted. But removing the wrong things only gets you halfway. The other half, the part that genuinely rebuilds what time has taken, is what comes next. Three specific foods that don't just slow the damage. They give your legs something to work with again. Real fuel, real repair. And the last one on this list? Most people have it in their kitchen right now and have no idea what it's quietly capable of. 1. Eggs, the most complete muscle food. Science has found for adults over 60. For a moment, I want you to think about how many times someone told you to be careful with eggs. Maybe it was a doctor in the 80s. Maybe it was a headline you read and never forgot. Maybe it became such a fixed piece of household wisdom that egg whites turned into the default and the yolk went into the trash without a second thought, year after year. I want to tell you clearly, and with the full weight of current nutritional science behind me, for your legs, for your muscles, for your ability to move through your day with genuine strength, discarding that yolk may have been one of the most costly habits of the last 30 years. Here is what the research actually shows. As the body ages, muscle tissue develops what scientists call anabolic resistance. It means your muscles become less responsive to protein signals, even when you're eating enough. The body receives the protein, but the biological machinery that converts it into repaired, rebuilt muscle fiber grows sluggish. This is one of the primary reasons legs weaken over time, even in people with otherwise reasonable diets. The problem isn't always how much protein you're eating. It's whether your muscles are still responding to it. Eggs contain leucine, an amino acid that functions as a direct trigger for muscle protein synthesis, even when anabolic resistance has set in. Think of it as the key that starts an engine that has grown stiff with age. 2 whole eggs provide enough leucine to meaningfully activate that process in an older body. Egg whites alone do not cross that threshold. The difference between a whole egg and just the white isn't subtle. It's the difference between signaling your muscles to rebuild and giving them protein they can't fully use. The yolk also carries vitamin D, one of the most widespread deficiencies in older Americans, which supports not just bone density but the neuromuscular coordination that determines how steady your legs feel under you. Choline, another nutrient concentrated in the yolk, maintains the structural integrity of your muscle cell membranes, helping those cells hold on to what they need to contract, recover, and stay strong. 2 whole eggs in the morning, cooked gently in a small amount of olive oil over low heat. Don't rush them. High heat degrades the protein structure. Pair them with something colorful, spinach, tomato, or bell pepper, and you've assembled a breakfast your legs will genuinely respond to. What comes next works on an entirely different system, one most people have never once connected to the strength of their legs. 2. Greek yogurt, the gut-muscle connection. Most seniors have never heard of. Let me ask you something that might sound strange at first. What if one of the main reasons your legs aren't fully responding to the protein you eat has nothing to do with your legs? This is one of the most significant shifts in nutritional science of the last decade, and most people, including many physicians, haven't fully absorbed it yet. Researchers now recognize what they call the gut-muscle axis, a direct, measurable relationship between the health of your digestive system and the strength of your muscles. Not a loose association. A concrete biological connection with real consequences for how you move and how quickly you recover. Here is how it works. Your gut is home to trillions of microorganisms that break down food and determine how much of what you eat your body can actually absorb and use. When that microbial community is diverse and functioning well, your body extracts protein efficiently, pulls in magnesium, processes B vitamins, and delivers amino acids where your muscle tissue needs them most. When that community is depleted, which research consistently shows happens gradually in most people as they age, the food still goes in, but far less of its nutritional value completes the journey to your muscles. You can be eating well and still losing ground simply because the delivery system has quietly broken down. This is why some people consume reasonable amounts of protein and still notice their legs continuing to weaken. It isn't always about what's on the plate, it's about whether the body is positioned to use it. Plain, full-fat Greek yogurt contains live probiotic cultures, specifically lactobacillus strains, that help restore diversity to a gut microbiome that has been steadily declining. Think of it as restocking a library that has been slowly losing its books over many years. The more complete that library becomes, the more efficiently your body can locate and use everything it needs. A single cup also delivers between 17 and 20 grams of high-quality protein, including the 3 branch-chain amino acids that muscle tissue absorbs with particular speed and efficiency. One detail that matters more than most people expect: choose plain and full fat. Low-fat versions almost always replace the removed fat with added sugar, which feeds the inflammation you've been working to reduce. And if you can eat it within 30 to 40 minutes of any physical activity, even a short walk around the block, your muscles are at their most receptive to everything that yogurt carries. Now, the last food. The one I mentioned at the very beginning. I think it's going to surprise you more than anything else on this list. If you're still watching and finding these insights helpful, please comment number 1 below to let me know you're with me. Now let's move on to point number 3. 3. Cottage cheese, the overnight muscle rebuilder. Most seniors stopped eating for no good reason. Every night while you sleep, something remarkable is supposed to happen inside your body. Growth hormone levels rise. Cellular repair activates. And your muscle tissue, the tissue that carried you through the entire day, begins the slow, careful process of rebuilding itself fiber by fiber. That phrase "supposed to" is doing a lot of work in that sentence, because for genuine muscle repair to actually occur, your body needs a steady supply of amino acids throughout those 7 or 8 hours. And most people, without ever realizing it, go to bed in a nutritional state that makes real overnight recovery nearly impossible. By the time dinner is finished, the kitchen is cleaned, and the evening winds down, the last meaningful protein most people consumed is 3, 4, sometimes 5 hours behind them. Through the night, with nothing coming in, the body faces a quiet decision. Where do I find the amino acids needed to run basic repair functions? The answer your body always arrives at when supply runs short is the one nobody wants. It begins dismantling muscle protein to meet its own needs. This happens without pain, without any signal, in people who go to bed nutritionally unprepared. Over months and years, that cumulative overnight loss surfaces in the legs before anywhere else. The heaviness in the morning, the stiffness getting out of bed, the strength that seemed to leave without explanation. This is precisely where cottage cheese earns its place on this list. Its primary protein is casein, a slow-digesting form that gels gradually in the stomach and releases amino acids steadily over 5 to 7 hours. While you sleep, casein is still working, still delivering, still giving your body the raw materials it needs to repair rather than dismantle. The difference between going to bed with casein in your system and going to bed without it is not theoretical. It is the difference between a night of genuine recovery and a night of quiet, invisible loss. Half a cup of plain cottage cheese before bed, low sodium, full fat, or 2% not fat-free, is enough to sustain that repair window through the night. A small amount of cinnamon helps stabilize blood sugar in the early morning hours, preventing the cortisol spike that can interrupt recovery just before you wake. A few blueberries alongside adds antioxidant support while your body does its best work in the dark. Most people drifted away from cottage cheese somewhere over the last 30 years without ever consciously deciding to. There was no reason. It simply disappeared from the routine. Bring it back and give it the one job it does better than almost anything else you'll find at the grocery store. There is one more thing I need to cover before we close. Not a food this time, a habit. And it may be quietly undoing everything on this list. The eating timing mistake that makes everything worse. There is a window that opens every morning shortly after you wake up that most people don't know exists and quietly closes again before most people have eaten anything meaningful. Your muscles are not equally receptive to protein at all hours of the day. In the morning, naturally elevated growth hormone and heightened metabolic activity create an internal environment where muscle protein synthesis is primed and ready to respond. Your muscle tissue, finishing its overnight repair cycle, is actively searching for raw materials to continue building. That window is real, it is measurable in clinical research, and for most older adults, it goes almost entirely unused. Here's the pattern I see more than almost any other in my patients. A light breakfast, toast, a small bowl of cereal, coffee, followed by a moderate lunch, and then the day's real protein arriving at dinner. A good piece of chicken, a portion of fish, a proper meal at the end of the day. It makes cultural sense. It is how American households have organized eating for generations, and it feels like the responsible, structured approach. The problem is that it runs almost perfectly backwards against the biology of muscle repair. By dinner time, after a full day of movement and activity, cortisol is beginning its evening decline, growth hormone is minimal, and muscle protein synthesis is sitting at its lowest point of the entire day. The protein you eat at dinner is not wasted, but a meaningful portion of its rebuilding potential is. You are delivering the most to your muscles precisely when they are least equipped to use it. That gap between what you're eating and what your muscles can actually absorb and apply is where strength quietly slips away. Research on protein timing consistently shows that spreading protein more evenly across all 3 meals, with at least 25 to 30 grams at breakfast, lunch, and dinner, produces significantly better outcomes for muscle maintenance than concentrating it in the evening. The total amount matters, but so does when it arrives and in what distribution. The correction costs nothing and requires no additional food. It only requires moving what you already eat earlier in the day. Eggs in the morning, Greek yogurt after a midday walk, cottage cheese before bed, lighter foods in the evening. The same nutrition, used far more effectively. This one adjustment, layered on top of everything else we've covered today, changes the entire equation for what your legs are capable of. Important warning. Before we move to what your legs actually need, I want to pause for just a moment. If you're currently managing diabetes, kidney disease, or taking blood thinners, some of the foods ahead may interact with your medications in ways worth a conversation with your physician first. This video gives you the knowledge. Your doctor helps you apply it safely. That partnership matters. Now, let's talk about what to add. Final takeaway. 6 months from now, you could be the person who walks into their doctor's office and hears something they weren't expecting. Whatever you've been doing, keep doing it. That version of you is not a distant hope. It is a biological possibility that exists right now, waiting for the right raw materials to take shape. Your body has not stopped responding. It is simply waiting for you to remove what's been working against it and replace it with what it was always meant to have. You don't need to change everything tonight. Remove one food this week. Add one food this week. Let consistency do what willpower alone never could. The legs that carry you up your own front steps, through your neighborhood on a quiet morning, toward the people you love, they are still in there. That journey starts with your next grocery trip. Your legs are still listening. The body you're living in today is more responsive than you've been told, and more vulnerable than most people realize until something goes wrong. Muscle loss doesn't announce itself. It accumulates quietly in the background, one meal at a time, one missed opportunity at a time, until the distance between who you are now and who you could become grows wide enough to matter in ways that are genuinely difficult to reverse. 2 years from now, one version of you is steadier, stronger, and still fully in charge of your own life. Another version is managing consequences that began forming right now, this week, in choices that felt too small to count. They were never small, they were always the whole thing. You now understand what's working against your legs and what your legs actually need to rebuild. That knowledge changes nothing on its own, but acting on it, starting with one meal, one swap, one decision, changes everything. Your legs are still listening. Give them something real to work with. These lessons are meant to inspire you to live fully and authentically. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Take a moment to reflect and share one thing you've learned and plan to apply in your own life. Let's support each other on this journey toward embracing these truths. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a comment with 1. If not, feel free to comment with 0. Your feedback means a lot to us. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content like this. Thank you for watching, and here's to living life on your own terms.